Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really getting into it, the global medical device technology market. Where's it heading?
It's a huge topic. We're looking at the Global Medical Device Technologies Market Report 2025 from Cognitive Market Research.
Right, and our mission here is to unpack that. Not just the big numbers, but, what's actually driving things, size, growth, the regional picture.
Exactly. And the numbers themselves are pretty staggering. The report estimates the 2025 market at almost 490 billion US dollars.
Nearly half a trillion, just for the tools and tech keeping us healthy. That's quite a baseline.
It really is. USD 489,241.5 million to be precise. It signals just how much momentum this sector already has.
Okay, so a massive starting point. But the really interesting part is the future, right? What are the projections looking like?
Yeah, the forecast shows significant growth. It's projected to hit, USD 750,832.3326 million by 2033.
Wow. So what does that work out to in terms of growth rate?
That's compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 5.50% between 2025 and 2033. So, yeah, steady climb.
5.5%. Consistent. And the report points to a specific reason for this sustained expansion, doesn't it? A big global health trend.
Absolutely. It highlights the rising incidence of chronic diseases as sort of the primary engine.
Things like diabetes, heart conditions.
Exactly. Cardiovascular issues, musculoskeletal problems. As populations get older and lifestyles change, these conditions become more common.
And they often need long-term management, monitoring, which means more devices.
Precisely. It just naturally drives demand across a whole range of medical technologies.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's break down this global picture. It's never uniform, is it?
Yeah.
Where's the biggest chunk of the market right now?
Well, currently that's North America. The report says they hold over 40% of the market share in 2025.
Over 40%. That's dominant. What's the actual value?
About USD 181 billion. 181,019.36 million specifically. Their growth rate, though, the CAGR to 2033, is projected at 4.0%.
Okay, so still growing, but maybe not as fast as some other places. Suggests a mature market, maybe?
That's a good way to put it. Steady, solid growth, but perhaps not the explosive expansion we might see elsewhere.
And within North America, obviously, the U.S. is the giant.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
The U.S. market alone is estimated around USD 142.8 billion in 2025. AGR is similar, 3.8%. It's really the anchor.
What about Canada and Mexico?
Canada's interesting. Market size around USD 21.7 billion, but a slightly higher CGR at 4.8%.
Meyer, why is that?
The report links that partly to a faster uptake of minimally invasive procedures. Mexico is solid too, about USD 16.5 billion, growing at 4.5%.
Okay, so North America's leading. What's keeping them there? Can't just be inertia?
No, definitely not. It's a mix of things. Relentless tech advancements, for one, plus there's high healthcare demand from an aging population.
Right.
And you see real innovation in areas like wearables, diagnostics, those minimally invasive surgeries we mentioned.
Plus, they spend a lot on healthcare generally.
Huge expenditures, yeah. And a strong focus on preventive care, telemedicine, AI, and devices. It's all pushing forward. And the regulatory side is generally supportive, too.
Okay, that paints a clear picture for North America. Let's hop across the pond to Europe. How do they stack up?
Europe's the second largest player, holds over 30% of the global share.
So still very significant.
Definitely. Market size in 2025 estimated at roughly USD 141.9 billion, and their CAGR is projected at 4.6% through 2033.
4.6%. So slightly edging out North America's growth rate.
Just slightly, yeah. It indicates a really robust market that's expanding steadily.
And Europe's diverse. The report breaks down individual countries, I assume. Any standouts?
Oh, yes. The UK looks strong, around USD 23.8 billion with a 5.4% CAGR. Germany is the biggest single market mentioned, about USD 28 billion, growing at 4.8%. Lots of advanced tech there.
Okay.
Then you have France, about 13 billion, 3.8% growth. Italy, around 12.2 billion, 4.0% growth. Russia, substantial too, nearly 22 billion, though a slightly lower CAGR at 3.6%.
Right, lots of variation.
Exactly. Spain's over 11.6 billion, 3.7%. And then you have important markets like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg showing solid CAGRs between 4 and 5%. The rest of Europe category adds another nearly 20 billion.
So a complex picture. What are the common threads driving growth across Europe? Similar factors to North America?
Many similarities, yes. Big advancements in healthcare tech. The aging population is a major factor across the continent. Strong demand for minimally invasive options, Lots of innovation in diagnostics, wearables, smart health.
And infrastructure, regulations.
Yep, solid infrastructure generally, strict regulations which can be demanding but also ensure quality, and a real push towards patient-centered care, personalized medicine, and integrating digital health.
Okay. Now, the region everyone talks about for growth, Asia Pacific or APAC, what's the story there?
APAC is really the one to watch, currently around 23% market share, so third largest. Market size for 2025 is about USD 117.4 billion.
Okay, significant, but less than Europe. But the growth?
That's the key. The projected CAGR from 2025 to 2033 is 8.2%.
8.2%.
Yeah.
That's huge compared to North America and Europe, easily the fastest growing.
By a considerable margin, yes. It's set to really change the global balance over the next decade.
So who's leading that charge within APAC? China, I assume.
China's a powerhouse, definitely. Estimated at over USD 49 billion in 2025, growing at 7.7%. Home healthcare and telemedicine are big factors there.
India.
India's growth rate is incredible, 10.1% CAGR. The market size is smaller, around 11.7 billion, but that growth is driven heavily by the rise in chronic conditions.
Wow. Any other key players?
Japan is still a major market, over 16 billion, growing at 6.7%. South Korea is strong too, around 14 billion, 7.3% CAGR.
Right.
Then you have Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, all with CAGRs between 7.5% and 8.5%. Southeast Asia as a collective block is projected at 9.0% growth. It's just dynamic across the board.
It really sounds like it. So what's the fuel for this fire in APAC? What are the specific drivers?
Well, it's several things coming together. Like India, the increasing burden of chronic diseases across these huge populations is fundamental. But also massive investment going into healthcare infrastructure. They're building hospitals, clinics, upgrading systems.
And technology adoption.
Playing a huge role. Wearables, advanced diagnostics, minimally invasive tech, they're adopting these rapidly. Plus, there's rising healthcare awareness, people demanding better outcomes.
Government support helps too, I bet.
Absolutely. Supportive policies plus the rise of telemedicine and remote monitoring are really accelerating things.
Fascinating. Okay, let's touch on some other regions. South America, what's the outlook there?
South America holds a smaller share, just over 5%. Market size around USD 18.6 billion in 2025. But the growth is solid, a 6.2% CAGR projected.
6.2% is still quite healthy. Which countries are notable?
Brazil's the largest, more mentioned, almost 8 billion USD, growing at 6.8%. Argentina's next, around 3.1 billion, but with a higher CAGR of 7.1%.
Interesting. Any reasons for Argentina's faster growth?
Reports suggest maybe rising disposable incomes playing a role there, better access. Colombia, Peru, Chile all show solid growth too. CAGRs in the 6.0 to 6.5% range.
And the drivers for South America overall? Similar themes.
Pretty similar, yeah. Increasing healthcare spending, aging populations, more chronic disease like cardiovascular issues, diabetes.
Government initiatives.
Yes, improving infrastructure is a factor. Plus, medical tourism is growing in some parts. Tech advancements like AI diagnostics are coming in, the private sector is expanding, and there's more foreign investment.
Okay. How about the Middle East?
The Middle East is smaller still, around 2% global share. Market size about USD 19.6 billion in 2025. But the growth projection is strong, 6.8% CAGR.
6.8%. That's quite high, comparable to South America's key markets. Who leads there?
Saudi Arabia is the biggest, nearly 6.9 billion, growing at 7.1%. The UAE is next, about 4 billion, but with an even higher CAGR of 7.3%.
Wow.
Egypt, Turkey, Qatar are also mentioned with CAGRs from 6.3% up to 7.4% for Turkey, possibly boosted by medical tourism.
On the drivers in the Middle East, more government spending.
That's a big part of it, yes. Government initiatives, investment in infrastructure, also aging populations, chronic diseases again.
Right, that seems universal.
It really is. Plus, tech advancements, AI, minimally invasive tech, an expanding private sector, medical tourism, regulatory reforms trying to attract investment, it all contributes.
Finally, Africa. Smallest share currently.
Yes, around 1% of the global market. About USD 10.8 billion in 2025. The projected CAGR is 5.8%.
5.8%. Still respectable growth, considering the baseline. Any specific countries highlighted?
South Africa is the main one mentioned, around 3.8 billion, growing at 6.7%. Nigeria is smaller, under a billion, but growing at 6.0%, with noted investment in tech. The rest of Africa makes up the bulk.
And the potential drivers for growth in Africa.
Again, rising healthcare investments, both public and private. Increasing chronic diseases are a factor here too. Demand for better solutions. Government initiatives, international support helping build infrastructure. Medical tourism is even a factor in some places. Urbanization, more awareness of early detection.
Technology playing a role too.
Definitely. Things like AI diagnostics, but also crucially more affordable, portable devices suitable for the region, plus efforts on affordability and improving regulations.
Okay, that covers the regional breakdown really well.
Mhm.
Let's switch gears to the types of devices. The report segments the market that way too, right? What's dominant?
Yes. The report suggests orthopedic devices are likely to hold the top spot.
Orthopedics, like hip and knee replacements?
Exactly. Joint replacements, spinal implants, trauma fixation devices. It's driven by, well, more bone and joint problems as people age, plus lifestyle factors.
Makes sense.
And there are big advances in materials, surgical techniques, more minimally invasive options, even custom implants using things like 3D printing, plus better infrastructure and awareness about joint health.
Right, so orthopedics leads. But what about the fastest growing segment? Is it different?
Yes, definitely. The report flags in vitro diagnostic devices, IVDs, as the fastest growing segment.
IVD, so tests, lab equipment, blood glucose monitors.
Precisely. Diagnostics performed on samples like blood or tissue. Think lab analyzers, point-of-care tests, molecular diagnostics.
And why are they growing so fast?
It's a combination of factors. AI is making analysis faster and smarter. Miniaturization means more testing can happen right at the patient's side, or even at home.
Telemedicine plays into that too, I guess.
Big time. Remote monitoring, easier diagnosis. Plus, there's just a huge push for early disease detection and personalized medicine, which requires sophisticated diagnostics. Rising healthcare spending helps too.
Okay, so orthopedics leading, IVD growing fastest. Interesting. What about where these devices are used, the end users?
Hospitals are currently the largest slice of the pie. That's probably not too surprising.
No, seems logical.
It's driven by rising healthcare spending overall, constant tech upgrades in hospitals, the volume of chronic disease patients they handle, and their focus on improving outcomes. They invest heavily in advanced imaging, monitoring, surgical tech.
But are other settings catching up? We hear a lot about outpatient care.
Absolutely. The report highlights ambulatory surgical centers, ASCs, as a rapidly expanding segment.
ASC, so centers for procedures that don't require an overnight hospital stay.
Exactly. And they're growing because technology now allows more complex diagnostics, treatments, and surgeries to be done safely in these settings.
Patients probably prefer them sometimes too.
Often, yes. Minimally invasive procedures mean shorter recovery. They can be more cost-efficient than hospitals for certain things. Plus, the rise in chronic conditions that can be managed outpatient, and just the expansion at ASC networks themselves drive demand for high-quality instruments there.
So a definite shift towards outpatient influencing device demand. Okay, zooming back out, the report must summarize the main market drivers, right? The big forces pushing growth.
Yes, it boils down to a few key things we've touched on. First, that rising global incidence of chronic diseases is fundamental.
Right.
Second, the big shift towards wearable devices for continuous monitoring.
Like smartwatches tracking heart rate, glucose monitor.
Exactly. And third, the growing demand for personalized medicine, which requires tailored devices and diagnostics.
And the flip side, what's holding the market back?
Yeah.
The restraints?
Two main ones highlighted. First, the high cost associated with many advanced medical devices, R&D, manufacturing, it all adds up. And second, limited reimbursement policies, especially in emerging countries. It can be hard to get newer, pricier technologies paid for, which slows adoption.
Cost and access, the classic challenges.
Yeah.
What about overall market trends shaping the future?
Well, the big one is just continuous, relentless innovation. AI, robotics in surgery, new materials. The pace is incredible.
It seems like it changes month to month sometimes.
It really does. The other major trend is that ongoing expansion of healthcare infrastructure in emerging economies. That just opens up huge new markets and opportunities.
Okay, finally, the competitive landscape. It must be pretty fierce.
Highly competitive, yes. You've got the huge global players and then lots of smaller regional specialists.
Any big names mentioned?
The report calls out companies like Abbott, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Roche, Johnson & Johnson, Siemens. The usual suspects, you could say.
Giants of the industry. How do they stay dominant?
Through, well, Massive product portfolios covering lots of areas, huge global distribution networks, and critically, constant investment in R&D and innovation.
Did the report mention any specific recent moves by these companies, examples of that innovation?
It did give a couple of examples. Abbott got FDA approval in March 2023 for their Freestyle Libro 2 and 3 glucose monitors to work with automated insulin delivery system.
Ah, connecting the monitoring directly to treatment. That's big for diabetes management.
Exactly. And Roche Diagnostics got FDA approval in late 2022 for a companion diagnostic rest, the Ventana FOLR1 assay.
A companion diagnostic, what does that do?
It identifies ovarian cancer patients who are likely to respond to a specific targeted therapy, so it directly guides treatment decisions, very much part of that personalized medicine trend.
Those examples really bring the innovation into focus. Okay, so let's try to wrap this deep dive up. What are the key takeaways listeners should hold on to from this 2025 report?
I'd say first, the market is huge and growing steadily, projected to keep expanding through 2033. Second, while North America leads now, APAC is where the fastest action is.
Right, that's 0.2% growth.
Exactly. Third, device-wise, look at orthopedics staying strong, but IVD diagnostics growing incredibly fast. Fourth, hospitals are the main users, but ASCs are expanding rapidly.
And the drivers versus challenges.
Drivers are chronic diseases and the demand for innovative, personalized tech like wearables. Challenges remain cost and reimbursement, particularly in developing regions. Innovation and infrastructure growth are the key ongoing trends.
That's a great summary of a complex global picture. It leaves us with a lot to think about. Here's a final thought for you, our listener. Thinking about all these trends, the growth, the regional shifts, the new technologies, how might this impact who actually gets access to cutting-edge healthcare and how affordable it will be in different parts of the world? What role will we as consumers and future tech breakthroughs play in shaping how these medical devices evolve? And, maybe most importantly, what completely new ideas or innovations might emerge to tackle those big hurdles of cost and access, especially in places where they're needed most? Some crucial questions as healthcare continues to transform. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.